My name is Neil Moorcraft. This is Automate, and in this module, we're going to take a look at marketing automation, and in particular, we're going to have a look at MailChimp versus ActiveCampaign and the difference there between basic email automation and advanced marketing methods. We're then going to choose one of those two products. I know which one we're already opting for this particular project. You may choose differently, but then we're going to connect that tech regardless of what one you choose. And then we're going to talk a little bit about tags and triggers and why to use them. So before we dive into that, I want you to understand there's a lot of technology out there, right? There's a lot of automation technology. So MailChimp, for example, can be compared to something like Aweber. ActiveCampaign could be compared to something like Infusionsoft. I have literally tried all of these products over the years and connected them all up and found out which works best, and not really just which works best for me, but just which works best. What offers the best value and what are the easier products to configure and that kind of thing. And these are the two winners, if you like. I use Pipedrive, as I say, for the CRM, and I use that for a reason. We're going to come on to that later. But you could theoretically, if you wanted to, use ActiveCampaign for your CRM. You couldn't use MailChimp. So MailChimp was a basic email automation provider that's kind of evolved. ActiveCampaign just came out of nowhere a few years ago to attack that market alongside Fusionsoft, and they've built a big product around it. The differences are um, ActiveCampaign almost does too much. It's very advanced and it's very sophisticated and it's great when you get it, but if you try and do too much with it to start with, you're kind of going to fall into the ClickFunnels trap. It can be a bit overwhelming, and all of a sudden it feels like you're just paying for software that you don't use and it doesn't work. Which is why a lot of people start with something like MailChimp. But the reality of it is, if you start with MailChimp and then you evolve and then you want to migrate to ActiveCampaign, you know what, you might as well just start there first. So you need to have a quick look and make a decision on that. And in order to do that, let's go over to our Asana workspace, make sure that you're in the right task area, read a little bit about what that is, and then just click in the task. And as I say, that's going to give us the links that we need to go and have a look and evaluate these two products. So MailChimp, yeah, nice, cheap and cheerful, very easy to configure, basic email automation. So, if you've got an opt-in form on your site and you want to capture an email address, send them a bit of information, wait for a few days, send them some more information, wait for a few days, send them some more information, that kind of thing. But it doesn't go past that. MailChimp is going to be arguably a better solution for you because it is just really easy to configure. And the API access and all of that is very easy, which we'll take a look at in a minute. But ActiveCampaign really is a much more powerful product. And as an example, the sort of thing that it will allow you to do once you get going is, if you have a site where maybe people log on, as I do, to come back to the site to access information, and they come through a link that you've given them from ActiveCampaign, so you've sent them an email with a link in it, ActiveCampaign will track that link. They'll see whether it's been opened or not. They'll then start tracking the user's visitor behavior actually on your website. So if, for example, they look at a product page, they might not need to do anything, but you know that they're looking at the product page. If they look at that for more than 3 minutes, you might decide to use a trigger to send them more information on that product page, or say, hey, I saw that you were checking out this product page. Maybe you want to schedule a call or something. You can't do that with MailChimp. MailChimp is just going to be, someone comes to your site, they fill in a form, you capture their information, you tag them, and then you use that tag to create a sequence. There's not a lot more intelligence with it. It's not to say that they're not going to build that in, but right now it isn't there, and that's why on this occasion I've chosen ActiveCampaign. Now when you click this link, that will take you to the sign up page. I've literally just done that to save you watching me fill in those details, but I have now just got a 14-day free trial with ActiveCampaign with all of the bits ticked. So there's no reason not to kind of review everything, but you'll see when you first log in that this is what you get down the side here. Now, we're not going to use deals. I'm not going to use deals because I use Pipedrive for the CRM. I'm not going to use conversations. I'm going to use lists. I'm going to use automations. I use campaigns maybe. I don't really use the contacts. So again, I'm just going to pull out the best bits of this, and you can see already that if I wasn't doing that, that all of a sudden, as you start to click into these various different elements, you'll see that there's a lot to it. The other thing to remember is that ActiveCampaign, like most of its competitors in that space, Pipedrive excluded, will charge you by how many users you've got. So the more users you have, the more you're going to pay for the product. And you don't just want to think, oh, I've got an automation bit of software and I'm going to import all of my LinkedIn contacts, or go and buy a list from someone and all that. You definitely don't want to do that. You want to start small and make sure that the people that are coming in to your automations are real active users that you can see and start to tag them properly. And we're going to do that as we go through this process. So as I say, I've picked ActiveCampaign, albeit I'm not going to use all of the features from ActiveCampaign. I'm only going to use kind of the features that I would expect from MailChimp. But I know moving forward, yeah, of course, I'm going to want to track someone. If they come back to the site, they click a link, I'm going to want to start to see that behaviour. And particularly as a big part of this particular project, and I suspect with your own project, is going to be around content delivery and content creation, and possibly you might want to rank naturally for that content. The more intelligence you've got, the easier it is for you to market. So as far as ActiveCampaign is concerned, that's a product we've chosen. I'm going to connect this tech up to our website, and to do that you come down to this developer key here and look for the URL and the access to put into your website. So we head back over to our site, go to the Thrive dashboard, and I'm just going to do this again so you can see exactly where I am in case you get lost. You go to the Thrive dashboard, scroll down to API connections, and then click in new connection. You'll see that ActiveCampaign is in there. These are all alphabetically. These are, alternatives, arguably. You might want to go off and review those, but trust me, I have, and I've come back with the two best, and ActiveCampaign is certainly one of them, and MailChimp, if you want the basic version, is the other. The API key, we just come over to here, then copy that key and chuck it in to our Thrive, and do the same with the long key here. Make sure you get all of it in. And then just pop that in. And as we do that, that will go off, do a quick talk, and done. And effectively now what that means is that when we look at our landing page, and let's have a look at our landing page, you'll now see how easy it is to connect that contact form up to ActiveCampaign, and then we can start talking about tags and triggers and how to use that. So in order to do that, let's have a look at our page. Now I've not configured a call to action on this yet because this is still the template page that we picked at the beginning, and I've outsourced that content, and that content hasn't come back to me yet, so I haven't done a lot other than just do the basic configuration settings that I suspect you have also done. So when we looked at this page, it's still going to look very much in development, but you will see that there's been some changes, and I'll show you quickly here how to create that opt-in and connect it up, and think about the tags and triggers moving forward, so that you can start to integrate that onto your own page and start to think where you might want to use those sorts of features. So I'll let that load. You'll see already that I've started to just customize this page. I think you saw me do that, just changing the text and the web copy. Now if I scroll down to the bottom, last time some of this information has been updated, with the address and all that kind of stuff from the main driver, so you don't have to keep doing that on every page. So as an example, if I wanted to now connect this page up to ActiveCampaign through a contact form, I could come up here and say, right, I want to put in a lead generation element. And I'm just going to pop that in below this section so you can see it. It then gives me some options for the lead, for the contact forms I want, and there are plenty of ways to do this. And again, we actually come back to this a bit more later. But just as an example, you see that there's a contact form in there now, and I've got these elements here, which if I want to edit the form, I can start to change the name that are in there and put little icons in there and just customize that if you want to. I'm not too worried about that at this point. I'm more concerned with connecting that form up to a new connection. So I can just go add connection. It's going to find ActiveCampaign in there because it's done already. It's going to default to the master list, which is fine. You want to have a master list. And then if you want to add a tag, you can add a tag that says something like, lead opt-in, and it might be, lead form 1 or whatever you decide to call it. And then that will apply the tag when someone fills in that form, and then send that over information over to ActiveCampaign. So that's it. It literally is as simple as that. You can get a form connected up to ActiveCampaign, and then that comes back in here and says, right, well, once that's done, what do you want to do with it? So in order for that to work, and as I say, I'm not doing it right now because I'm going to come back to this landing page. I just want to give you a quick overview of how to do that. And then we can get a lot more sophisticated, because I appreciate there's a lot going through your mind at this point. But if we go to automations and we create a basic automation, it starts with saying, well, what triggers it? So we're going to start from scratch. Again, there are lots of what they call recipes. So these are sort of blueprints, if you like, for lots of different industries. And again, there's some really good ones in there, and you might want to look through it and you might think, you know what, that's great for me. But at the same token, when you deploy a template, it can be a little bit more confusing because it's not quite what you want, and then you've got to start taking bits out. So I actually find it's easier to start from scratch, and then when you get going, you might think, you know what, I'm going to get a more sophisticated campaign and then craft it to make it your own. So for now, we'll just start from scratch. And then, as I say, it's going to ask us initially loading up the top there, what we want to do to trigger that campaign. And as I say, once you get an idea then of how these triggers and actions work, everything just becomes a lot clearer. So to add a trigger, we can say, well, okay, what's happening now? You can see already in ActiveCampaign there's a lot of things that can trigger it. And as I say, in MailChimp, that's not the case. So in this example that I've just said, it would be someone subscribes to that list. So someone fills in that form, that's good enough, they're in that list, that will be the trigger. But you can also see, maybe they just visited a web page, or maybe they've shared an email, or maybe they've clicked a link in an email, and all of those things are tags and triggers. So tags and triggers, kind of the same thing. They're not, but they're very much related, in as much as that something will tag and trigger the sequence. So as I say, in this instance, we're just going to use subscribes to a list. It's the only list that we've got, which is the master contact list at this point. It runs once. That means that someone's going to come in and get that once rather than it run multiple times, and then start. And that effectively then would be the trigger. That's it. And then it's like, well, what do you want to do? Now we've connected something and we say, well, okay, we've triggered it. What do we want to do? Well, we want to send them an email. So, okay, we don't have an email yet. Create an email. That will take us into the WYSIWYG. We'll put welcome in here. And again, there are templates here if you want to use them. I don't use them because I want to make sure that this looks and feels like my own. So I'm going to want to customize these emails my same, make sure that the fonts are right and all that kind of stuff. But you can, as you see here, pick from lots of different templates. So I'm not going to do that now, because right now this is not what we're doing. It's just an introduction into this. And when we get clear on what that call to action is, and we get clear on what your funnel really looks like, we're going to come back into here and spend a bit more time and make sure that we pick the right one for us to do the job initially. As I say, we don't want to go off and create lots and lots of different funnels just for the sake of it. The point of the landing page is to get a conversion. The point of the opt-in is to get the email. The point of the email is to send a communication to get them to a point where we're going to say, well, okay, we now want to have a conversation, or we want to sell a product. So we're going to keep it small. We don't want to get too carried away. So again, now we're in ActiveCampaign. Have a look around, familiarise yourself with that. Don't worry if this seems a bit overwhelming at this point. As I say, you've got The basics set up, the fundamentals are set up. We're still in the planning phase. We're not deploying this yet, and we're doing all of this in the right order for a reason. So yeah, you don't need to worry too much about, oh my God, what one do I need? You just need to have connected up your API to your Thrive theme, and then when we come back into the landing page and we start to redevelop that, we're going to come back into ActiveCampaign. We're going to pick up the right automation, and then we're going to deploy it and test it and make sure everything works before we go live. So on that note, I'm going to leave you with this, and I will see you in the next module.